Hello everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Video Clips. And I'll just start with, we talk about consequences usually on Friday. A Florida couple was arrested and ordered, this all starts with a Florida couple who were tested positive and ordered to quarantine. Jose Freire Interian and his wife. They were told to quarantine themselves and wear their masks at home for 14 days. The Florida Department of Health determined that they presented an immediate danger of harm to others when the agency found out that the couple had the nerve to go out shopping for food. Now, what kind of lunatics go out shopping for food? Because for 14 days, certainly you should be able to make some kind of other arrangement other than going out for it yourself. A neighbor captured footage of them walking their dog. What kind of crazy people take their dog outside when they're being quarantined, right? This is just so. Anyway, the neighbor, because everybody's been taught to turn on each other, and the snitches, by the way, your day will come. I'm kind of fantasizing about having a snitch section on our website where we put pictures of the snitches, because it's pretty easy to find out who they are, actually. But anyway, I digress. So the snitch got a picture of the couple with the dog, and they sent it to the police, and the police got a warrant, and then they arrested them. This is life in COVID land, all right? But it gets worse. Here's somebody, this breaks your heart. I have a wife and a little 5-month-old child living in the Philippines, and at the moment I'm living in Canada where my father lives. I was with my wife and child when she was born in February, but then the situation started and everything was starting to change in the Philippines. The president or dictator named Duterte is known to be tough on crime and totally disrespectful to citizens' rights before the scam started, but once it started, he filled the streets with army and police personnel. There are checkpoints on every corner. All modes of transportation were stopped. No bus, ship, or airplane travel was allowed. He commanded the army and police to shoot and kill anyone who didn't obey them, including women and children. My wife doesn't have documentation to travel to the US or Canada, and the baby didn't even have a birth certificate. Processing of it took a couple of months due to the pandemic. I was discriminated against because the people were scared that as a foreigner I was transmitting the virus to everyone there, so I decided to leave and return to the US or Canada. Philippines Airlines and the Canadian Embassy there joined to arrange some special flights for Canadians who were stranded in the Philippines. I decided to try to get a seat on one of those flights. I managed to get a seat, but the fare was about 3 times the usual fare. I thought I'd be able to return to the Philippines in a few weeks or maybe a month or two when things went back to normal. Now it's been almost 4 months. My baby is growing up without me. My wife and baby are in an apartment owned by one of my friends, and he's selling the apartment back to the owners of the building, so in just 2 weeks they will be on the street. I'm trying to find them a place to live, but it's not easy from here, and my wife doesn't have anybody to help her with the baby because her family cannot come from another city in the Philippines due to the lockdown. I can't return as the dictator has blocked all foreigners from returning to the country. All this for a tiny death rate from COVID of under 2,000 for a country of 110 million people. Now I'm worried that my family will soon be out in the streets. I can't go there to help them or see them. I contacted the Philippine consulate and they told me they don't know when foreigners will be allowed to return. It might be 6 months or a year before I could return to be with my family. My child will not know her father. All I could do is see them on my phone, and they'll soon be homeless. Today is July 31st, 2020. It's day 141 that my father has been imprisoned in a nursing home by Governor DeWine. That's here in Ohio, the Emperor DeWine. The mandate given in March stated that all visitors, including family, are not, which is turning into never, permitted to visit within the nursing home due to fear of spreading the virus. DeWine said it was for the safety of the most vulnerable, the elderly, that he made this rule. However, as with all the other mandates, including but not limited to masks, social distancing, school closures, curfews, the facts outweigh the lies spewed from his mouth. COVID still found its way into nursing homes despite masks. However, it never made sense to me that nursing home personnel could go home every day or night to their families, who may have also been exposed, shop in big box stores, go to restaurants, and come back to work the next day. Yet I am forbidden to see my father because I might spread the disease. The Columbus Dispatch said that 70% of the cases were in Ohio's nursing homes. Another lie, but I guess I digress. I don't blame the nursing home staff. They followed the rules, but obviously it didn't work, so why continue the facade? The few days that DeWine permitted outdoor visitation still discriminated against elders who are bedridden or too incapacitated to be outdoors. Back to my dad, I declined to move him outside for a visit because he would have to wear a mask, a deficit that would make it impossible for him to communicate, as a stroke had impaired his speech to the point that he uses his hands sometimes to shape his lips to form a word. He also watches my lips to communicate. His mask, my mask, and the social distancing wasn't worth the effort. Governor DeWine's nursing home lockdown imprisonment continues to deprive precious elderly people of their families' protection, deny oversight of their health status, overwork the nursing home staff, and intensify a cognitive decline, depression, and anxiety of themselves and their families. Just like in hospitals, many have died and are dying alone without benefit of knowing their family's comfort of touch and presence. And so she goes on to say that she feels that DeWine's handling of this is criminal and negligent. I know that there are many horrible outcomes due to his outrageous mandates, but I never hear about the ones who are equally affected and seemingly forgotten, our elderly families. I can't bring my dad home because he's full assist. Day 141 and beyond is another day wasted that families are denied visitation of their loved ones. And you just have to wonder about the mentality, the mindset of somebody who thinks that this is okay. I'm astounded. I'm astounded. Our emperor thinks this is okay. And it's going on all over the country. He's not the only one. We have criminals and despots in our government all over the country right now. Here's another one. I'm an educational therapist in private practice. In California, where I work, all the schools have been shut since March. When the original lockdown was called, I stopped my practice. A month ago, the mother of one of my clients contacted me because after being his home teacher for several months, she was very worried about her 9-year-old son. He had been receiving special ed services for 4 years at his public school already when she started having me see him for additional private sessions after school, beginning in February of this year. When he returned, I found he had forgotten everything. Not receiving consistent in-person services has been devastating for this boy. He got nothing from his instruction via computer on Zoom. He should be starting 4th grade this fall, but there's no way he will be able to handle the curriculum. He is unable to even read a 1st grade book. I've been very worried about what the shutdown is doing to the population of children identified for special education services. In the United States, a full 10% of kids now have IEPs. The Association for Educational Therapists had a webinar on how to tutor online. I watched it. I found its methodology absolute junk. The curriculum was so patched together and uncoordinated, it was a bunch of apps strung together. When I teach these children, I monitor each and every response while I'm teaching so I know what I need to do in the next minute, which you cannot do with distance learning. So not only are the brightest of kids are having trouble and have gone backwards with this schooling at home. It's one of the reasons why people are pulling their children out of school and homeschooling. The disadvantaged children, the children who have come from economically disadvantaged families, are even worse. And I'm concerned about it from a couple of perspectives. One is obviously going backwards in terms of academics, but there's another issue, and that is if you talk to anybody in law enforcement, they will tell you that child predators are well aware of the fact that children are at home alone because parents have to work. And so these kids normally would be protected in school for part of the day, and they're not there. And these predators are experts at getting to them. And so we're putting our children at horrific risk. That's why we spent all this time and every effort to put together the Homeschool Resource Center, where we've helped many, many families get their kids out of school and into the right program, including some who have special needs children. So go to makeamericans.freeagain.com and take a look and let that, and if we do conference calls 3 times a week, we have private help available for people who are having trouble figuring this out. And there are all kinds of ways to do this. There are pods and groups and all kinds of things going on. So this is terrible. I mean, people are paying taxes for this, for schooling that isn't happening. We can worry about that later, but right now we just have to make sure we take care of the children. All right. I have a 7-year-old granddaughter who was in 1st grade. My daughter had to become her teacher after the lockdown. My daughter, with an honors degree in English from the University of California, expressed her frustration because she was not familiar with what short and long vowels were, so she could help my granddaughter's reading schoolwork. I know that anybody over the age of 10 or 15 most likely has never been taught phonics, which is now the standard reading curriculum because it was not done until recently. What's happening to the education of American children, much less those whose parents have not achieved a college degree, 70% of the population are affected. Additionally, in California, over 50% of the children in the public schools are minorities, especially immigrants from Mexico and Central America. A high percentage are English learners. 1 in every 8 children in the U.S. lives in California. Research has reported that it takes 7 to 10 years to achieve native speaker levels of a second language. Historically, Hispanics have scored below white children on academics. Many of these families have no access to the internet. These children need to be exposed to a native English-speaking teacher, which may be the only English that they hear. Often their parents don't speak English or speak it so poorly they can't help them. And so, the bottom line is that, again, it points out the disproportionately negative effect that this is having on minorities, economically disadvantaged people. I'm astounded at the number of people who normally are very conscious about this type of thing, who somehow have suspended all interest in this and are wearing their masks and think that this just should continue into perpetuity. And I'm just wondering, at what point in time are we going to recognize what's happened here? The cleaning up this mess is going to go on for decades. I'm 63 years old and I'm planning to live to be 100. I really believe that the day they put me in the ground, there will be new lawsuits being filed over all of this nonsense. And I'll close with this. 52 nursing home patients in Gatesville, Texas were photographed holding posters asking people to be their pen pals. They had almost no contact with anyone except for food brought to their room for almost 6 months now. And I don't have the ability, I know that I could and all that, so don't send me a bunch of emails about how I could show pictures, because I know that. I'm trying to do this with the limited time that I have. But I saw the picture. You can probably look this up online. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen, as a person laying in a bed with a sign saying, "Please be my pen pal. I'm lonely." And this is, I just don't know how the emperors of these various states can watch this going on, and I have to believe that they are. I can't believe that they're not looking at any of this type of reporting, and they're seeing and looking at the children who are falling behind, the increase in child predators, increase in suicide, increase in overdose deaths, economic devastation. I just don't know how they can watch all of this and appear to be, at least in the press conferences I see, completely not bothered by it. No intention of doing anything differently. At least not here, not what I've seen. Every day, little DeWine's got people knocking on doors, testing everybody coming in the hospital so he can gin up the cases, so he can continue to do what he's doing. This is the result, what I report to you every week. And he goes home to his luxurious farm and his multi-million-dollar status and says to his wife, "Fran, we're doing good, baby." I mean, I'm amazed. I don't know how to find the words to describe people like this. They aren't really people. They're not, they're criminals. They're criminals. And some of you ask what will happen to them. Till my dying day, I'll be working on that. I promise you that. All right, well, that's it for now. Some things to remember as I sign off for the week. If you're interested in careers, send me an email. Go to makeamericans.freeagain.com, sign up. By now, you should probably be able to download the cards and things that will help you recruit other people. We've got things going on here at the center every Tuesday night, and conference November 13 through 15. If you like what we're doing, buy stuff from us, WellnessForumHealth.com. Have a great weekend. I'll be back to you on Monday through the newsletter and Tuesday through Friday with more news next week on video clips.